give the presentation on the herbal immune booster for the COVID-19. A very good topic, sir. And it is a very relevant to the conference theme. And now I invite Tanya. Tanya, please introduce.
Recording in progress.
Good afternoon, sir, and everyone. Now I would like to invite Dr. Dhiren Shah, sir, working as an professor and head of department in Shri Naraji Bai Lalbhai Patel College of Pharmacy, Gujarat. He has completed his M.Pharm from Belgaum, Diploma in Pharmaceutical Marketing from IIPM, Lucknow, and PhD from Sumandi Vidyapeeth, Piperia. Sir has more than 16 years experience in research and teaching, has also served as a reviewer and advisory editorial board reviewer in national and international journals, published 61 international and national publications in various presentations in research journals and conferences respectively. So has published various books and also guided various UG, PG and PhD students. Sir has honored by Excellence Award in 2012 for Research and Innovation by IIT New Delhi, Fellow of American Biographical Institute, USA, and his various grants from Gujarat Coast. Now, finally, I would like to welcome Dr. Shah sir for his informative lecture on herbal immune booster for COVID-19. Sir, please.
Thank you, ma'am, for this nice introductions. Dear students, I know that it is a difficult portion of the time, that is after a post-lunch sessions, to deliver a lecture, but I will assure you that once you start entering in this lecture, you will definitely feel good to hear. I will share my presentation first. Okay, madam, my presentation is visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So today I am going to talk on herbal immune boosters. So boosters means that will boost your energy, boost the immunity. So today's topic is herbal immune boosters, substantial warriors of pandemic COVID-19 battle. As we know that in this COVID-19 situations, we have gone through a very drastic and disastrous life, but it is a time, it will come and it will go definitely. So just look at the warrior trains, which shows the current scenario of corona and COVID-19. So today, at the present time, in Gujarat, in India, total active cases, total discharge, total death, and total vaccination. You can see number of people are now vaccinated, and these are the total cases in the world and total recovery of the COVID-19 patients. It indicates that slowly we are fighting with the corona and we are getting better results. So during this corona period or COVID-19 periods, number of people have started taking kava, various kinds of herbal drugs. So why to go for the traditional medicines? So currently the search to identify the treatments and vaccination for novel coronavirus disease are ongoing. No doubt number of vaccines are available, but still they are not able to fight with all the variants of the COVID. So desperations within the community, especially among the middle and low income group, actually affected by the economic impact of forced lockdown. has driven increased interest in exploring alternative choices of medicinal plant-based therapeutics. When we are at home, we cannot go anywhere. We are thinking about the medicines that will come from the kitchen, and that's why people are thinking about to use traditional medicines. As the world looks towards science in search of an effective drug or a vaccine, a few countries such as China, India, with long histories of traditional medicines use have also started exploring the role of traditional and complementary alongside with the conventional treatment. The Malaysian community, coming from a tropical multiracial country rich in the flora and fauna, also appears to be interested in venturing towards the use of herbal and complementary medicines. Though there are still unproven antiviral drugs, vaccines and other alternatives available that are being tried to target SARS-CoV-2 consecutively. Emphasis is being imposed on precautionary measures and symptomatic cure. Yet, new discovery require several trials for which few months to years can pass for the development. Having said that, there is an urgency to beat the COVID-19 outbreak, for which natural products, herbal plants and their formulations should be sent to this battlefield. Because of their feasibility, cost effectiveness, eco-friendliness, efficacious nature and zero side effects, they need to be promoted for this warfare. As we know that number of drugs are available in our kitchen. From that we have started the curcuma, aloe and clove. All these things we have started to taking in the from our home to boost the immunity. In this milieu, medicinal herbs are gifted gods. Definitely we can say that in this pandemic era, these herbs are the God's gift to us for healing, supporting and rehabilitating patients. Even though no substantiation is present, but different studies on herbal plants are being conducted that have the ability to strengthen immune system and cope up with this virus. To accelerate, certain phytocompounds are being recognized to characterize the herbs in mitigating the incidence of infections. Just we will see how this virus affects the immunity.
Whether it's fighting the coronavirus or the common cold, the body's immune system has several mechanisms to combat viral infection. So how does the immune system respond to viruses? Before we explore this question in more detail, let's take a look at viruses and their effects on the human body. A virus needs to invade a living cell to replicate. A viral infection is when a virus invades the body and can lead to a spectrum of symptoms. The virus particle, which is called the virion, consists of a viral genome that is made up of either DNA or RNA and is enclosed in an outer protein shell called a capsid. Some viruses have an envelope around the capsid that contains lipids and proteins, including glycoproteins and viral receptor proteins known as spikes. The virion uses surface proteins in the capsid or glycoproteins in the envelope to attach to the host cell. After entering the cell, the virion turns it into a virus factory. The virus utilizes the host's protein formation and replication functions, which it uses to assemble into new viruses. Multiple copies of the virus are released from the host cell and spread to nearby cells where they repeat the cycle. So what strategies does the immune system use to prevent or curb infection? The first response to a viral infection is the rapid onset innate response. There are several mechanisms involved in innate immunity: interferons, natural killer cells, and antigen-presenting cells. When a virus infects a cell, the cell produces and releases signaling proteins called interferons, which are a type of cytokine. Interferons act as a warning signal to neighboring cells. They act by binding to interferon receptors on nearby uninfected cells. In response, the cells start producing antiviral proteins, which prevent the virus from replicating in the cell in the event of infection. Interferons also play another important role in the immune response. They induce nearby cells to increase the expression of major histocompatibility class I molecules, or MHC class I, on their surface. MHC class I molecules have two important signaling functions, for which they display endogenous viral fragments, known as antigens. First, they present antigens to adaptive immune cells, which we'll discuss later. Second, MHC class I molecules present antigens to innate immune cells. Let's look at this in detail. Infected cells are removed by specific lymphocytes that patrol the body. These natural killer cells, or NK cells, have receptors that recognize the antigens on MHC class I molecules. The absence of MHC class I molecules plays an important role in the immune response of NK cells. Usually, cells express sufficient MHC class I on their surface for T cells to be able to recognize them if they become infected. However, viruses can prevent infected cells from synthesizing these molecules. As a result, there are too few MHC class I molecules on the cell surface, which causes the infected cell to evade capture by T cells. The patrolling NK cells recognize the absence of MHC class I and release toxic substances, such as granzymes and perforin, which kill the virus-infected cell. Infected cells can also be removed via macrophages. These large leukocytes ingest free viruses in a process called phagocytosis. First, the macrophage surrounds and engulfs the virus. The macrophage then breaks the virus down by mixing it with digestive enzymes stored in vesicles called lysosomes. The degraded virus material is then released from the cell as waste. Macrophages are antigen-presenting cells, which means they're able to capture, process, and present antigens from pathogens. Another type of antigen-presenting cell is dendritic cells, which bridge the innate and adaptive immune responses. If the innate immune response is unable to curb an infection, the adaptive immune response becomes involved. Let's take a closer look at how the adaptive immune system helps the body fight viruses. The adaptive immune system includes lymphocytes such as T cells and B cells, as well as antibodies. Viral fragments presented on MHC class I molecules on the surface of infected cells attract cytotoxic T cells. These cells, also known as CD8 positive T cells, are able to kill infected cells. With their specific T cell receptors, cytotoxic T cells interact with the antigen-loaded MHC complex. In response, the complex releases cytotoxic factors that induce either cell lysis or apoptosis, that is, programmed cell death of the infected cell. Macrophages then engulf the dead cell and release it as waste. Let's move on to the B cell response. B cells also fight viral antigens. However, rather than targeting antigens and killing infected cells, B cells produce specific antibodies. Antibodies are proteins that are produced in response to a specific pathogenic protein, the antigen. Let's take a look at this process. Before antibodies are produced, B and T cells need to interact. The B cell needs to undergo several steps to present the viral antigen on its surface. First, the B cell receptor recognizes the viral antigen. The B cell then internalizes the antigen and presents it on MHC class II molecules on the B cell surface. Before T cell recognition can occur, CD4 positive T cells, also known as T helper cells, need to interact with viral antigens of the same specificity. The antigen is presented on the surface of the dendritic cell by MHC class II molecules. This entire process is termed priming and stimulates the maturation of the CD4 positive T cells. Finally, the B cell with the presented antigen binds to the T cell receptor on the CD4 positive T cell. This interaction is called linked recognition and is the final step required to fully activate the B cell. The activated B cell gives rise to long-lasting memory B cells and plasma cells. Another type of long-lasting immune cell is the memory T cell, a specialized T cell that remains in the body after being produced during an innate immune response. Memory cells ensure a swift and effective response when the body is exposed again to a specific virus, and usually provide lasting protective immunity. Importantly, memory cells form the basis of immunological memory, the ability of the immune system to recognize antigens after an initial exposure and to mount a quick and efficient response in subsequent exposures. Immunological memory provides the rationale for vaccination. Plasma cells also secrete antibodies specific to the viral antigen encountered. So, antibodies developed in response to a virus will eliminate that virus on subsequent encounters. There are several ways in which antibodies help destroy viruses. First, antibodies can neutralize free virus particles so that they're unable to infect host cells. Second, antibodies can mark free viruses for phagocytosis in a process called opsonization. Third, antibodies can activate the complement system, also known as the complement cascade. The complement system is made up of a series of proteins. It helps antibodies and phagocytic cells to clear pathogens. Together, the series of proteins generate the membrane attack complex, which is abbreviated as MAC. The MAC causes infected cells to lyse and die. Fourth, antibodies can bind to infected cells, resulting in the activation of natural killer cells. The antibody binds to the viral antigen on the target cell surface. Special receptors on NK cells, called FC receptors, recognize the bound antibodies. This binding signals the NK cell to release cytotoxic factors that kill the target cell. This process is called antibody-dependent cell-mediated cytotoxicity. So, in short, the innate immune response comprises cellular and biochemical defense mechanisms that the host uses immediately or shortly after exposure to the virus. The innate immune response is present before infection. In contrast, the adaptive immune response is antigen-specific and acquired, taking several days to endow protection. The immunological memory developed in the adaptive immune response is long-lasting, sometimes even lifelong. The practice of vaccination is based on the development of immunological memory.
So this is how a virus has affected the immunity and how the responses are taken. So Ayurveda, Unani, Siddha, Homeopathy, Romanian, Persian, Chinese traditional medicinal plants, for example, are being currently exploited to check the effectiveness on this virus. Since decades, herbal plants have been utilized in indigenous health service as well as conventional medicines to combat disease. As we know that from the ancient time, from the beginning of the man, the treatment was started with the plants. The natural products provide an ancillary steer to unlock different mysteries behind the sickness. The exploitation of antiviral mechanism of these natural compounds could shed light on their modes of action towards viral life cycle, invasion, penetration, replication, assemblage and release. Moreover, customary evidence about plant sources and their uses is chiefly indispensable to employ it appropriately under right conditions. There have been more than 25,000 herbal formulations used in folk remedies in Ayurveda alone. Medicinal herbs are by far the life-saving drugs these days, and research is being conducted on them to promote their usage in treatment of COVID-19 patients due to their potential of possessing anti-inflammatory, antioxidant and antiviral properties. Although clinical trials are conducted to repurpose their value for innovative treatment to defeat its transmission, during this period of global fretfulness, it is pertinent to locate long-lasting measures to avoid the spread of this pandemic. Hence, it's a need of the hour to collaborate and counteract against COVID-19 by exercising social distancing along with maintaining hygiene surrounding. That's why our PM has said that 2 गज की दूरी है बिल्कुल जरूरी. Now, How this SARS-CoV-2 infection is categorized depending upon its perspective on immune responses and immunopathology. These infections are divided into three categories. First is asymptomatic phase. Then second is non-severe symptomatic phase, and third is severe respiratory symptomatic phase. Very rare cases are gone up to the third stages, that is severe respiratory symptomatic phase, but maximum cases are of asymptomatic phase and non-severe symptomatic phase. If the treatment has been taken within these two stages, it is much possibility that patients can recover from this virus. Because these drugs are working as a shield, host immune response initiate as soon as SARS-CoV-2 binds to ACE2 receptors and release viral RNA for replication. Both the innate and adaptive immune response could be triggered in response to the SARS-CoV-2 infection. How? Immune responses are different between severely and moderately infected patients. In a blood samples of symptomatic hospitalized patient with mild to moderate SARS-CoV-2 infection, before resolution of symptoms, immunological changes such as increase in the number of activated CD4 plus helper T cells and CD8 plus killer T cells, follicular helper T cells, antibody secreting cells and antibody, particularly immunoglobulin G and immunoglobulin M, were detected. On the other hand, in severely infected patients, lymphocytopenia is a common denominator with substantial fall in numbers of natural killer cells, beta cells, CD3 plus T cells, CD4 plus helper T cells, CD8 plus killer T cells, along with the increase in neutrophil to lymphocyte ratio and C-reactive protein levels. Additionally, in comparison to the non-severe patient, pro-inflammatory cytokinins and chemokinins such as tumor necrosis factor, alpha interleukin 2, interleukin 6, interleukin 7, interleukin 8 and interleukin 10, granulocyte colony stimulating factor, monocytochemo attractant protein 1 and macrophage inflammatory protein 1 alpha are often reported to be elevated in serum level of critically ill patient. And that's why Ministry of Ayush has recommended the preventive measures to boost the immunity, and that is drink warm water throughout the day, daily practice of yogasana, pranayama and meditation for at least 30 minutes. This is our ancient people has said and showed that pranayama, yoga are the best practice for routine day life to increase our immunity. But the pandemic has taught us that this is what we are neglecting and we have to start practicing that. And use spices like turmeric, cumin, coriander and garlic in our day-to-day cooking. Now, different speakers have talked about the different herbs that are used in boosting the immunity. I will show you some videos that how these immunity booster herbs are working.
Taking care of your lungs is essential for anyone who is focusing on improving their overall health. Because when excess mucus is present, it can cause difficulty breathing and those feelings of shortness of breath that are very discomforting. The good news is, there are several natural herbs that studies have shown to contain potent therapeutic properties that are beneficial for your lungs and respiratory system. And that is exactly what we are going to talk about in this video, so hopefully you can clear up your lungs and make breathing easier. Be sure to watch until the end because there's actually one that may surprise you. So if you're ready, let's get into it. Just a quick reminder, we are not doctors, this video is for informational purposes only. But the first herb that we need to talk about is ginseng. It's an herb that has been used in traditional Asian medicine for centuries. Ginseng is known for its potent antioxidant properties which work well for fighting inflammation. Not only is this beneficial for your lungs, it's also good for pretty much all the organs and systems of the human body. Not to mention, studies found that ginseng actually can provide a boost for your immune system as well. But that's not even why ginseng comes in at number 1 in this video. The reason is, studies found that ginseng is beneficial for those with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. And in case you weren't aware, COPD is the 3rd leading cause of death in the United States, so it affects far more people than you probably realize. Multiple studies found that those with stable COPD who take ginseng experience improvements in breathing and lung function, which ultimately leads to a better overall quality of life. Keep in mind though that at this time there is no cure for COPD, but traditional medicine and herbs such as ginseng can provide relief for some of the symptoms. Of course, and this goes for all home remedies, always check with your doctor before medicating yourself at home because you don't want to put anything into your body that it can't handle. Moving right along, number 2 is osha root. The roots of this herb contain several components that can provide a boost to your lungs and respiratory system. Specifically, it helps increase blood circulation to the lungs, which in turn helps improve oxygenation throughout the entire body. Osha root also has antihistamine properties, which work well for soothing sinus infections and other respiratory illnesses. Some elements that may benefit include cough, sore throat, bronchitis, and common colds. A few drops of concentrated osha root extract can be added to your water or beverage of choice. The numbing effects help to alleviate the irritated tissues of your airways and respiratory tract. Number 3, of course, is none other than eucalyptus. The eucalyptus tree has been a source of food for wildlife for centuries, but it wasn't until later on that humans discovered its positive health benefits. The leaves of a eucalyptus tree can be distilled and diluted into an essential oil which can be used for medicinal purposes, such as treating sinus congestion, common cold, fever, and other respiratory ailments. Eucalyptus has a component called cineol, which is an active ingredient that works as an expectorant. This means that it can ease a cough and aid in the removal of secretions. Cineol has antioxidant and antimicrobial effects that can provide a boost to your immune system as well. It reacts with the mucous membranes of the lungs and helps loosen up secretions so that they can be coughed up more easily. Number 4 is elderberry. You've probably heard of this one, and maybe you've even tried it at some point because it's a plant that has become wildly popular over recent years. The reason is, elderberry is known for its antimicrobial, antibacterial, and antifungal properties. This makes it great for boosting the immune system and treating colds, infections, and viruses. Elderberry is also referred to as sambucus and is most commonly consumed in the form of a cough syrup. In order to give your immune system a boost, you can take 1 dose of elderberry per day. Or if you're already sick, you can look into increasing the frequency of your dosages. Keep in mind that although elderberry is generally considered to be safe, you don't want to overdo it. As always, check with your doctor for recommended uses and dosages. Next up on our list is astragalus. This herb became popular in Chinese medicine and is known for its antibacterial and anti-inflammatory components. Studies found that the astragalus root can boost the body's resistance to infections and increase immune responses. This makes it a great option for those who want to strengthen their immune system and decrease their chances of being infected by certain viruses and bacteria. Astragalus has been used to treat a wide variety of ailments such as the common cold, allergies, and even chronic fatigue. Coming in at number 6 is horehound. The horehound leaf, which comes from the mint family, is actually a common ingredient in cough drops and cough syrup. That is because its natural properties work as an expectorant to aid in the removal of mucus and secretions from the lungs. This means that it would be useful for those with allergies, sinus infections, and chest congestion. Some people use this herb to make their own cough syrup by finely chopping up the leaves and mixing them with alcohol and honey. So if you're interested in creating your own DIY concoction, this may be something to look into. Next up is bergamot. Bergamot is a citrus tree that is known for its ability to relieve feelings of stress and anxiety, but it contains properties that can make breathing easier as well. Throughout history, its fruit juice was used for the treatment of a variety of different ailments, but more recently, it's been formulated into an essential oil supplement that can be used for medicinal purposes. That is because it contains antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and antiseptic properties, which is exactly why it can benefit your respiratory system. This essential oil can be used in aromatherapy and works as an expectorant to clear the nasal passages, fight congestion, and provide relief for chronic coughing. This aids in the removal of mucus and phlegm, which removes bacteria that causes lung infections and ultimately can make breathing easier. Number 8 is lavender. Lavender is a plant that is found all over the world, but many don't realize that its properties have been used for medicinal and religious purposes for hundreds of years. Studies found that lavender may offer benefits for those with COPD because it contains antioxidant properties that work to combat the progression of the disease. One study found that its aromas help to decrease the production of cortisol. Cortisol is known as the stress hormone, so with decreased productions of cortisol comes decreased levels of stress. Bronchoconstriction is a symptom that comes with COPD, and stress only makes matters worse because it causes the airways to constrict, which makes it more difficult to breathe. With that said, as your stress levels are decreased, the airways can open up more, which makes it much easier for your lungs to take in oxygen and remove carbon dioxide. Next up is peppermint. Peppermint is an herb that is native to the Mediterranean region and, as its name suggests, is also part of the mint family. The leaves of a peppermint tree can be formulated into an essential oil that was discovered to have analgesic, antiseptic, and antimicrobial properties that offer an array of benefits when it comes to improving your breathing. One of the primary beneficial properties of peppermint oil is menthol. It's an active ingredient that, when inhaled, provides a cooling sensation that can provide relief for a sore throat. One study found that it also promotes relaxation in the muscles of the airways within the lungs, which causes them to open up so that they can take in more oxygen. Peppermint is also traditionally used as one of the ingredients in chest rubs, which helps provide relief for congestion. Keep in mind though that peppermint oil is not a bronchodilator, so it should not be used as a replacement for albuterol or other prescription medications. Next up is mullein. It's another herb that has traditionally been used as a remedy for the lungs and respiratory tract thanks to its soothing ingredients. The mullein leaf has antibacterial properties that fight against both gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria. Some studies found that it even has antiviral and antifungal properties as well. This trifecta is good when it comes to treating breathing issues that are associated with colds and respiratory infections. The most practical way to consume mullein is as an herbal tea, or you can add a few drops of concentrated extract to other beverages as well. Real quick guys, do me a huge favor and hit the like.
So these are some very interesting plants that boost the immunity. Number of people have talked about the herbs. Today we are going to talk on the secondary plant metabolites against COVID-19 virus. Some of the categories of phytoconstituents, they are very good to fight with the COVID-19. First category is triterpenes. The triterpenes are a compound of 6 isoprene units and with squalene as a prototype and are diversely occurrence in plant species. They play a vital role in modulation of cellular metabolism, specifically the biosynthesis of sterol, and have a significant level of antiviral activity. Various triterpenes have been reported to have effect against HSV1 and HSV2. These include dameridinol, dameridinol-2, damerenolic acid, hydroxydamarinon-1, soric acid, ursenic acid, hydroxylinonic lactone, and iserelinic acid. The various triterpenes that are isolated from the plant to fight the COVID-19 are thymoquinone extracted from Nigella sativa, salvinorin A derived from the Salvia diminorum, bilobalide and ginkolide A extracted from ginkgo biloba, citral from Glaucosia citrodera, froscolin from the Platoranthus barbatus, noscapine extracted from Papaveracea family, and menthol from the mentha. Now move toward the another category, that is polyphenols and flavonoids. Amongst many group of substances, polyphenols displayed a wide range of biological activities. Polyphenols are known to increase the immunity to cells to foreign infestation and in response permit cellular accumulation of different types of polyphenols through varied receptors. These subsequently trigger signaling pathways and initiate immune response. The main mechanism by which they suppress the viral infection is by inhibiting of cellular receptor kinases including MAPKs, the serine threonine specific protein kinase and the phosphatidylinositol 4,5 biphosphate 3 kinase, which is known as PI3K, and as consequences interferes with the cellular signaling transduction cascade. The various polyphenols are glycyrrhizin from Glycyrrhiza glabra root, bacillin from Stachyloria genus, then hesperidin from citrus fruit, and curcumin from Curcuma longa. Now, the way of working or mechanism of action of polyphenol, flavonoids, and terpenoids to